to this first edition or first episode, I should say, of Pastor's Talk. And today the subject is Holy Week. I figure this might be a good thing to talk about because this is something that some of us might be somewhat familiar with. Others may have heard it used before, but just, aren't aware of, what Holy Week involves. And we're hoping that we could use this as a time to really focus on Jesus and his passion, his going to the cross, and everything that took place, leading up to his death on Friday or Good Friday. So, got Pastor Dallas here with me, and we wanted to just have a conversation about Holy Week and talk a little bit about that. So, Dallas, is Holy Week something that you are familiar with, or that you've become familiar with, or what's your history with Holy Week?
Yeah, I think especially growing up, there was a lot of emphasis on, Good Friday and, some of the days of Holy Week. I mean, obviously, I think a lot of us have been pretty used to celebrating Palm Sunday and kind of that being the precursor to Easter, right? You don't really have Easter without Palm Sunday. And so
sure.
I think one of the things that there's been, for me at least, growing up, and I think for a lot of us, there's that disconnect between what actually happens on Palm Sunday and how we actually get to Easter. Yes, we talk about the Good Friday service, but there's a lot of stuff that happens during that week.
And just in case we didn't mention it, Holy Week starts on Palm Sunday, and it goes all the way to what's called Holy Saturday, and then things kind of conclude on Easter Sunday, or we might say start new on Easter Sunday. Yeah, I know my own story growing up, probably somewhat similar. I've heard of, I remember, Good Friday type things, services, community services, doing things like that. A little bit of Maundy, Thursday. I think there might have been a church that did kind of a Passover, / Eucharist communion meal that they put on kind of a play. I remember going to that, but just, my familiarity, what I know about Holy Week is very limited. It's something that I've really come to learn a lot more about in probably the past 10 years as I've been serving here at Northside, and I've really come to appreciate what it does and the focus of Holy Week. And it is, even though, we're talking about death and Jesus going to the cross, there is, something good, I think, in looking at that and focusing on that and thinking about that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I mean, in reality there's a lot that happens in that week of Holy Week that if you didn't know much about Jesus' story, it's kind of a culmination of, there's a little bit of everything that happens in that week, especially, as we follow the lectionary, which the lectionary, again, if you're not familiar with that, is set readings that follow the church year on a 3-year rotation basis. And these lectionary readings, much similar to the Northside weekly readings, have an Old Testament passage, a Psalm, a New Testament passage, and a Gospel. And what's really interesting in all of those, there's things that are calling back to the prophecies, in the Old Testament that are saying this is what the Messiah is going to have to do. It was black and white. It was right there, written in the scrolls for them to see. And then now we see actually Jesus living that out as testimony during this last part of his life. So it's really neat.
You brought up an interesting thing to talk about too, because it goes right along with this, and it's the church year.
Yeah.
And the church year is, again, one of those things that I didn't grow up real familiar with. I think my church year growing up consisted of Christmas and Easter. That was kind of the two things that stuck out in my mind. And then, once I was in school and studying to be a pastor, you kind of learn about, the church year and how our year was shaped around the life of Jesus, really. And it's really a meaningful thing. It, starts with Advent, that, leads into Christmas. And then after that, I think Epiphany. And then that leads into Ash Wednesday. And Ash Wednesday is kind of the start of the season known as Lent. And Lent is this 40-day period from Ash Wednesday, really all the way up to Palm Sunday. I think if you take it the way, or do it the way you're supposed to do it.
Yeah, there's Sundays. I think the 6th Sunday in Lent is how it gets categorized.
Yeah. So, but I can remember, when I first learned about Ash Wednesday and Lent, that was something kind of new, and I really liked the emphasis on, fasting, thinking about your own mortality and your limits, and, trying to use that time to really engage the spiritual disciplines and become more like Jesus. And as a youth pastor, I remember we did an Ash Wednesday service to kind of start Lent, and had a little bit of pushback with that. People asked, isn't this something that, only Catholics do? And I don't know if you've ever had that or experienced that with, the church year, which my response was, the Catholics also pray. They also read their Bible, and just because something is Catholic doesn't mean it's bad.
Yeah.
Which I think there was, for whatever reason, kind of a bad taste in some people's mouth towards the Catholic Church, and even my own upbringing, Nazarene. I always kind of looked with suspicion on other denominations, especially the Catholic Church. But I've now come to realize that we are all God's children, and it is by faith. That we've been saved, and we have brothers and sisters that are part of the Catholic Church and some very committed followers of Jesus. And they really do stick to that church year. And again, the church year is there to help us focus on Jesus, to help us focus on God's story in the Bible and, his promises to his people. And I appreciate that about the church year.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could do a whole pastor talk just on the church year.
Yeah.
There's even so much more to that, and I won't necessarily touch on it here, but I mean, because we don't just end at Easter. We go to Pentecost, and then there's ordinary time. So there's a whole lot more to it than that, and just the rhythms of the church, how how this was designed was to help us flow into living those cycles of life, death, and resurrection. I mean, ironically, that's even what we're going to be talking about on Easter this year.
Yeah.
But it's just, it's very interesting. You mentioned that, about being kind of leery of even other denominations. And I think sometimes we get this mindset of like, oh, this is my church, or this is the way we do it. And, we don't want to, let anybody else's influence come in. But yet, what Jesus tells us, the whole reason, we're talking about this Holy Week, is that he's challenging, the religious leaders of his day to say, you're not just the only special people. Like, I am coming for all people. Like, I am opening this up, and, don't let your laws or your ideas of what religion is, restrict you when I say, everyone's welcome to come into this kingdom.
Yeah, and I think another, interesting point is, when we get to Easter, a lot of us, well, myself, maybe not anybody else, but, look at kind of that time leading up to Easter, and then Easter is kind of being all there is to Easter. And really, Easter Sunday is the start of the Easter season that takes us all the way up to Pentecost. And I think that's an exciting time, for the life of the church too as well. And I'm really trying to think of ways to, I've been challenged to make that a celebration, that Easter really is a celebration. And how can we make the Easter season, a time of celebration instead of just, that one Sunday.
Yeah.
So the passages of scripture, we're in the Gospel of John this year. So we're following Jesus' story and what happened on Holy Week through the Gospel of John. And so we're starting in John chapter 12 with Jesus' entry into Jerusalem and the Palm Sunday story. And then we've got some different passages that we'll look at in the Gospel of John each day of Holy Week. So on Monday, we're going to be, looking at Jesus being anointed at Bethany in John chapter 12. And we're really hoping to draw, your attention, our attention to the story of Jesus, the life of Jesus, and see what we can learn, see what we can be challenged with, and see how Jesus, lived his life that last week, before he was crucified. So, Dallas, anything else to add here about Holy Week? Maybe we just, it starts Sunday, March 28th. That's Palm Sunday. And then I noticed Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I didn't notice a special name for those days.
Yeah, I think they're just traditionally called Holy Monday, Holy Tuesday, Holy Wednesday. So.
I saw that Thursday is referred to as Maundy Thursday, which some of the history of that I think goes with that being a Latin word tied to a Latin word meaning commandment or mandate. And the mandate that we're going to actually look at is in John chapter 13, where Jesus says, I give you a new command, to love one another. And so there's Maundy, Thursday, and then there's Good Friday, not to be confused with Black Friday. Every once in a while I do unfortunately confuse those, but Good Friday is when Jesus was crucified. It's his trial before the high priest, being brought before Pilate, and then ultimately being crucified. And then there's Holy Saturday too as well, where Jesus is in the grave, Jesus is dead, with the anticipation of Easter Sunday, that Sunday where we celebrate his resurrection. So I'm excited to be looking at this, to be talking more about this, and we're hoping that you will read these passages ahead of time so that you'll know what we're referencing, and we will have a plan out too that shares these passages too, so you'll be able to read those. But I'm really excited to be walking through the Gospel of John and to be exploring Holy Week this year, 2021. So.
And I think I'll just balance that too. One of the things about Holy Week is, we put the emphasis on Palm Sunday for this year, but there is a balance between choosing to focus on Palm Sunday or Passion Sunday. And Passion Sunday is really giving that emphasis to the scriptures of Jesus's actual trial and his beatings and the suffering that he actually goes through.
Yeah, and Palm Sunday is also called Passion Sunday.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of saying
it's the same Sunday. So but it's given as an emphasis for those that maybe they don't traditionally celebrate like a Good Friday, but it helps them understand what Jesus was going through that week. And I think one of the things that kind of just touching on this too, the reason, the Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday don't necessarily have, special names, because Jesus obviously was going into Jerusalem for celebrating the Passover. And so there was a lot of the preparation, there was a lot of the time for the meal itself. And so Jesus wasn't necessarily going through the suffering, but it's interesting how half of the week is spent in the preparation for the second half of the week of what Jesus is going to go through. So there's always those two parts of what is God preparing you for, and then what is God going to bring you to and through. So I think that's kind of a neat little tie-in of what Holy Week is.
Little message there too that you could preach through that. So, well, I'm really excited about this, and we hope that you'll learn some things and grow closer to God and learn to love Jesus and love people. So you take care. God bless. We'll see you soon.